Hi guys, welcome back. This is What's Done in the Dark Tea, and we are reviewing Love Island Season 8, Episode 11. I told you guys I was going to try to do these more up to date, so here we go. So, on Sunday night's episode, we start off right after the recoupling. So, we have the new couples, we have Soul and Sincere, we have Kinsey and Caleb, and then we also have Gabe and Jen. Now, right after the emotional, dumping of Bea, we saw that Gabe was crying. We saw a lot of emotion that we hadn't seen from him previously in other episodes. If you watch my last episode, I said that I think that we weren't seeing a lot of Gabe and Bea because of possibly like the language barrier. Maybe they were speaking in Spanish, and so it wasn't getting shown as much. But either way, we get to see Gabe with Jen. He is still obviously emotional. Jen is trying to comfort him, but she says she is not very good with feelings. But she is trying to comfort him, and he is still noticeably upset. But the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, Jen doesn't give a shit, and neither does Gabe. It is very obvious that neither of them give a damn, but this is very much just for, I don't know, maybe this was just for dramatics so that they could look like they cared, but neither of them really cared. And we'll talk more about that as the episode goes on. Then after that, we get a shot of Anaya pulling Kata and Zach to have a conversation. Now, she wants to talk to Kata and Zach because during the challenge in the last episode, we see that Zach picked KC, and the question was like, something like, who thinks they already have it in the bag? Who thinks that they've already won? Something like that. And he picks KC. And I don't think it was necessarily the question that made Anaya upset. I think that it was more so his explanation. Like he said, you wanted to, or KC wanted to explore Soul, but he felt safer with you. So Anaya is obviously upset. She goes and she talks to Zach and Kata, and she's kind of asking him, why he said that. Zach is just saying, like, he expressed to me that he may be interested in Soul, but in the challenge, Zach made it sound like it was something that, maybe KC was saying like the day of, which he could have been, and we're not seeing it because of editing. But from what we see, it was more so he wanted to talk to Kata in the beginning, and he just never did because he was like, kind of, why am I messing up a good thing? But of course, while this conversation is happening, KC could not have picked a worse time to pull Soul. And I'll just say this now. I don't think that KC and Soul would be a bad couple. But I am going to be kind of upset if KC goes about this in a shady way and hurts Anaya's feelings, which that might be why he's kind of tiptoeing around things. He doesn't want to hurt Anaya's feelings, but I will be very upset if he does shady stuff and ends up hurting Anaya's feelings. So in the middle of Soul and KC having a conversation, which their conversation is kind of Soul just kind of checking him and being like, hey, look, you didn't even give it a chance. I was interested in you. This could have been something, but you didn't even give it a chance to know. And KC is, kind of sitting there like making his facial expressions like he does and just saying, he should have talked to her, but, things would have been different if they would have had this conversation a couple days ago. Things would have been different. In the middle of them having this conversation, a very, very visibly upset Anaya walks up and says, hey, can I pull him for a chat? And ends their conversation. Anaya pulls KC, and she's just pretty much telling him that she feels like he's, not taking things seriously. He keeps laughing. She's trying to have a conversation with him. He's making these faces. She's getting more and more pissed off. He finally stops. She expresses how she feels to him, saying, if you were interested in just say that. I don't want to feel like I'm anybody's safe option. I still feel like even though he was kind of answering her questions, I do feel like he was kind of being jokey and kind of dancing around how she felt a little bit, which for me, that would piss me off because I don't like when somebody is being like trying to be funny and cute when I'm upset. I don't like that. Some people like a jokey man. I am not one of them. So he's doing that whole thing, and, she's visibly upset. And we start to see, sorry, my dog, we are starting to see the cracks form in Anaya and Casey's relationship. So after that, we see a conversation between Kinsey and Corbin, and they're pretty much saying, they still like each other, but, they're willing to explore and blah, 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 blah. Everybody is getting ready for bed. Melanie decides to sleep outside. She doesn't want to see Sincere sleeping with Soul, so everyone goes to bed. The next morning, when everything kind of kicks up, we get to see Soul and Melanie have the first conversation that I've seen them have on the show. Melanie says that, she's glad to be out of the love triangle or whatever, but she does ask Soul about them kissing. Part of me thinks that she went up to Soul and hugged her and did all of that because she wanted this information, but she wanted it. She got it. She goes up to her. She hugs her, asks her about the kisses. I think that was the first time that Melanie had 100% proof that Sincere had been lying and kind of playing in between. And you can kind of see the gears in Melanie's head kind of turning. And I think that that's when she starts thinking, like, I have to play this game different. Even though I do think that we will see more of her and Sincere, even though we don't see them interact at all this episode, I refuse to believe that that is just done. The way that she was acting, the way that he was acting, as manipulative as he was trying to be, I don't foresee him walking out of this situation without trying some more BS. So either way, it's the next day, and we get a conversation between Kinsey and Corbin. Now, these two people, I don't know what the hell is going on here. I don't know. But we see Kinsey and Corbin, they're having a conversation. Corbin is, of course, let me get a kiss, let me get a kiss, let me get a kiss. This man is going to have mono. There is no way in hell that this man does not have mono. This is one of those dudes that when you see him in a store, oh, where's my hug, where's my hug, where's my hug? Ugh. Something about it just cringes me out. But either way, we get to see them have a conversation. They're saying they miss each other. It's only been a night. I don't know how you miss each other, but whatever. They miss each other. Corbin asks for the kiss. She says no, she can't get a kiss. Or he can't get a kiss. But then they proceed to go upstairs to Soul Ties. And when I tell you they are having a full-on freaking makeout, like her legs are wrapped around this man. They are going in. And poor Caleb is just sitting down there watching the whole thing. Now, Caleb has been connecting with Kinsey, and they have been kissing and they have been cuddling. But it's like every chance she gets, she runs off and she's with Corbin. And I think this is really going to screw Melanie too, because we get to see some conversations between Melanie and Corbin. And I actually think that Melanie and Corbin are a better couple than Kinsey and Corbin. But I'm not sure that Kinsey is going to come off her man, because even when Melanie was having the conversation with her about, having to be in the relationship or partnered up with Corbin and wanting to pursue him after the stuff with Sincere didn't work. And you could almost sense the hesitancy in Kinsey to be like, yeah, you can talk to him, because she still clearly wants him. And at this point, like the way the way Kinsey is playing in Caleb's face and bouncing back and forth with Corbin, this is the exact same thing that everybody is side-eyeing Sincere for, so I don't know what Kinsey is getting a pass for right now. But Kinsey is doing that whole thing, and she's upstairs making out heavily with Corbin. You get to see Caleb. He is like, how many times is this, is this going to kind of go on? I will say, Caleb, he is definitely a Southern gentleman, and you can tell, because I would have been like, good, I'm good, let me talk to somebody else. And I actually hope that Caleb does talk to somebody else. I would love to see, I don't forget whenever he first came in and I saw that kiss between him and Trinity. And I still think that could be something. I am so sorry. I have puppies and they are going insane. But yeah, I still think that that could be something. So I would like to see that come back. Um, Let me see. We have Bryce and Trinity, which, again, this was a pretty calm episode for them. Nothing too much happened in that realm. And then they do this Oh, yeah, we already talked about the challenge. I don't know if we talked about the challenge. I might have just jumped into it, but they did this nasty challenge with these hot dogs, ketchup and mustard, where they had to, like, jump in this slime, do this whole thing, whatever. And that is where the question that Anaya was crashing out about came from. I don't know if I mentioned that in the beginning of this, or if I mentioned it in the end of last one, but either way, that's how all of that came about, from a challenge. It was supposed to be based on the FIFA World Cup. So it was like kind of a soccer challenge, but it had nothing to really do with soccer. It was just disgusting. I don't know. Either way. So, yeah. And as I said, I would come back to Gabriel. So Gabriel is just acting like he was so sad about Bea. Bea is barely on a plane back to the US, and he is already wrapped up with Jen, acting like they have so much in common, even though I think that he's like a little thrown off because he's not Jen's type, and I really think that Gabe thinks that he's everyone's type. So we'll see how that works. I don't foresee that being long lasting because I just feel like the blondes are overly sexual. I don't know what is going on with the blondes. I think Kenzie's over sexual. I think Jen is over sexual. When she said she likes PDA, I'm like, my God, how much more PDA can we get? I've seen this man make out with more women in a week than I've probably ever seen anybody make out in my life. But either way, everybody is together. And then at the end, we get a text and they say that somebody is going to the hideaway. I think it is so weird to have hideaways and no dates, but they say Kata and Zach go to the hideaway. I forgot to mention that earlier in the episode, Kata and Zach were kind of having a little tiff going back and forth because it looks like Kata wants to be intimate. Zach is like, oh, why would I don't know if we should be intimate because what if someone else comes along? And I'm like, that is the wrong thing to say to somebody who's trying to give you some cheeks. But either way, they get picked to go to the hideaway. I think it's weird. I don't know if I would have picked them to go to the hideaway, but who else were we going to send? Because also, Trinity can barely get Bryce to give her a kiss, so I don't know what the hell they would be in the hideaway for. And Casey and Anaya are kind of on the rocks right now, so that wouldn't have made sense either. So I guess Kata and Zach were the only people that can go. I really hope that my girl Kata does not give up the cheeks in that hideaway, because I just know for a fact that a bombshell is going to come in for Zach. I know production is going to send in a bombshell for Zach. But that's how the episode ends. And we get to see in the sneak peek for tonight that, Caleb is upset. We get to see that Melanie and Sincere, of course, do have a conversation. And I hope that we get some more of this Anaya and Casey situation. I also think that I think Casey and Soul are going to be talking some more. And I really hope that they just bring in a bombshell for Anaya. Bring in more guys that actually like black women, not just set it on paper. Bring in some guys that actually like black women, and let's get Anaya with somebody who actually likes her. If Casey doesn't like her, that's fine. That's totally okay. But we're getting Anaya with somebody, so let's just wrap that up. But overall, I'm very excited for tonight. I hope you like this recap. I know that these are shorter, but this is the best way to do it. If I'm going to get these out to you super quick, they're not going to be heavily edited, so you're going to hear all of my mess ups. But we will have more polished videos eventually. It's just Love Island is crazy. I didn't realize how hard it would be to cover a show that comes on every single night, but here we are. But I really hope that you enjoyed this recap of Love Island. Sound off and let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think about Anaya pulling Casey and being upset. I saw in the preview for tonight that Casey kind of flips out on Anaya, and I don't like that. Let me know if y'all are still feeling Zach, or if y'all think that he has some red flag kind of things going on. And also tell me how you feel about Kenzie. Do you think that, I know that it's okay to explore, that's what they're there for, but do you think that her going back and forth between Corbin and Caleb is playing the game, or do you think it's taking it a little too far? Y'all sound off in the comments. Y'all let me know. We are so back. I love Love Island summers. It gives me endorphins. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Prepare for tonight's episode. And yeah, we're spilling tea over here, so be sure to come back. Bye.